Hello everyone and welcome to a new edition of the Low Code Café, episode 53. My name is Bogdan Litescu. I am the founder and owner of Planton App, and together with my team we are doing this event every week, which is a community event where we focus on interesting content, interesting techniques, new features that we get out in new versions or that our community comes up with. Today, this event actually before that, for those of you that are new to this webinar, know that this happens every week. So make sure to also attend the future versions. And these sessions are being recorded, which means that if you visit our YouTube channel, and we'll post the link in a bit, you'll be able to see 52 hours of very good content, very good techniques on how to achieve various implementation, various systems. As I was mentioning, usually we have about the same agenda. We have some overview on the new features that are coming in the new releases with Reza, our head of product. We also have a part that is stories from the trenches, so we get to learn from techniques from our customers. And then finally, the biggest chunk, it's actually a hands-on part where we build something. And today we'll follow the subject that was presented last week, which was using QR. Last week we used it for inventory management. Today, Dale will show us how to use a QR code for logging into the system. So very interesting technique for security use cases. So without further ado, thanks for being here. Make sure to engage with us any way you see fit, chat, Q&A. And I will pass now the microphone to Reza to give us a product roadmap overview.
Thanks, Bogdan. Hey, everyone. So as we know, the release we're in right now has a lot of moving pieces to it. And we've really committed to doing a really thorough job of testing. And one of those areas that we're testing against, and kind of a heads up for everyone, is as far as our support for how far back we go with versions of DNN. It's a year back. And so we're coming up on a year anniversary type thing of next month of 9.6.1, which was a very major release. I think it's where things finally got right. There was some big changes from a DNN standpoint with dependency injection and things like that. It's a very milestone, I think, release for DNN. And a lot of things kind of have been like go forward future type path since then with the platform. And so with that said, we're coming at the kind of end of life for us with support for 9.3.2 and wanting to make sure that what we're going to release now has really good support for 9.3.2, because we're not going to be focusing and testing heavily against that release anymore. If there's issues and things, the advice is going to be to upgrade the DNN. And so in that testing, we found some compatibilities some things that aren't quite working right or firing right in 9.3.2. And so we're addressing them. And with that said, though, we're going to need another week, I think, on this one. We started upgrading our internal sites and things like that. And so the release candidate, the early access, if someone's really itching for it or wants to help test with it, will be next week, August 4th, and then the release will be August 11th is what it's looking like. And so I just found a couple of big showstoppery type things during upgrade and stuff, particularly on 9.3.2 and a little bit older version of DNN. Also, we've been resolving some issues for some third-party vendors, the Too Sexy content, some of the Mandeep's skins, then Garrow, and I think ultimately what we found is they kind of got bit by similar things where the core of DNN has changed and updated some things and behaviors, and so there's been some conflicts around shared files and stuff like that. So we've been working to resolve those. In resolving those, have exposed a bug in DNN. We have logged it with DNN, and we're taking up actually contributing and fixing it in DNN for the next release of DNN. In the meantime, though, we had to pull back some of the code that we put in to ensure compatibility between App Builder and Plantain App and some of these third-party modules. Still have some fixes in that space. There will be, like for people that are waiting, particularly like on the 260 conflict of getting these two to install and run together in some cases, particularly where 260 was already running. And then you come and put App Builder and Plantain App on. If it was the other way around, it works a little better, but we'll have some guidance. There's a little bit of cleanup that you'll need to do manually because of that bug that was found in DNN that I mentioned in cleaning up some of these files that it leaves behind. But 80% is going to be taken care of automatically, and there'll be a few files that you need to either move or remove, and we'll have those documented. And I know that there's some tickets in the support center and on community forum that Dale's involved in and working. So keeping close with him, make sure he'll have that information and will help you kind of get past that sticking point. And that's where we're at with things right now.
Great. Okay, well, we'll move on into From the Trenches. Let me share my screen. Hello, everyone. A few things. First, in the From the Trenches segment today, really I'm going to focus quite a bit on things that are going on in the community forum. And if you're not participating in the community forum, I sure think that it'd be worth your while to do so. The quality of the answers that you get from your fellow community is great, and we certainly appreciate when you help answer the questions as well. So one of the questions that came up this week was about CSV and CSV file imports, and so the question was, what's the difference between them? There's two different actions, and also, hey, I wish I could do something other than other delimiter types. Cite he wanted to do a pipe. So just a quick, I've loaded up a workflow, not saved it, but just to show the difference between the two. Load entities CSV has the place where you send the CSV, however you've acquired it, send it directly to the input. So if you've loaded a file, if you've built up a token, if you have static CSV that you want to import, you can just drop it in here directly. And then with regard to the field separator, we've added, in addition to what was there previously, but we now support comma, semicolon, the tab character, the pipe character, and the colon character. So all those are out there. Just wanted to make sure not everyone knew that those were out there, and so that's useful to know that you can import that information directly. So load entities CSV file, very similar, has the same kind of delimiters available to you, but if we, instead of providing the CSV content directly, you can point it to a file. So if you've uploaded a file, perhaps even in the same session, or you've put it into your file structure through site assets, but you can point to the file and then import it from there. So those are the two different ways that you can use that content. The next one, there was a question in the community where somebody was having problems, and it turned out that the issue had to do with mixed versions. And so I said before, and I'll point out again, mixed versions can cause issues, and that happens due to the shared components, the DLLs that are underneath. So if you have a DLL that's targeting that we release with, for example, 5.10, and then you install 5.13 for one of our products, there's now the other products are looking at this new DLL, and perhaps it'll work and perhaps it won't. We always release things together. So if you're in a particular for example, 5.10 version, it's best if all of the products that you have installed for us is 5.13. Now, I always get to the same, if you have the highest is 5.10, then they should all be at 5.10. And when I get to this point in the discussion, this is an issue for the DNN Sharp community. Plant an app with the one-click upgrade, which has been working very successfully now for a long time, keeps all the versions at a nice, consistent, aligned one click. It's done. So this is more of an issue for people who are in the DNN Sharp community before they convert, which I'm sure all are going to do very soon. So in this particular ticket, we had when we asked about it, we found out that the product that the user had version 5.13, 5.8, 5.11, 5.8.8, this mix of products, and they weren't working well together. And once we got them all up to version 5.13 or 5.14 all together, the symptom resolved. So I say again, your best bet is to stay all in the same 5. Whatever version. And there's a caveat too. We know that at version 5.13, there is one of these conflicts that came up. So if you go to 5.13 or above, you need to, it must be all the products need to be installed at the same version level. And then the last one that I wanted to point up was there was a Reza script question that was thrown out and said, how do I do this thing? And within an hour, one of our frequent contributors, Ben Santiardo, said, well, have you tried this particular answer within, this particular syntax within Reza script? It was the answer. It solved this problem. It was, a very quick, very accurate answer. So again, I just encourage you to be part of both sides of the community forum. With that, I'm going to move on to hands-on low coding. And so today's topic is remember me or still remember me. We're going to use do secure login using QR authentication. So we talked last week about QR. We had a website that we did some inventory, keeping track of all of our expensive artwork. And so now we're just going to extend that and make it where you can log in. I'm going to start out by just demonstrating what it is that the feature that I'm going to do. And then this is in the category of free software. I'm going to show you exactly where to download this and how to implement it. And so if you want this feature, you can load it and then you can make adjustments to it. And we'll talk about potential adjustments that you might consider making. So let's get started. I've got this is a practice area just to demonstrate the feature, and I'm going to do a login. So I'm going to use my cell phone, I'm going to scan that code, and then I'm going to hit QR login. And because I've already set up my phone using this application, I am now logged in as a manager. So just a one-step scan and click, and I'm very, very tempted to use the pusher application that we've talked about in previous low-code cafes. So you don't even have to click, but as it's released, since not everybody is going to use pusher, I've got it with a QR login button. So you just click, scan the code, click that, and you're logged in. So I'm going to sign out here and work with this a little bit more, some of the features that are there. So I'll work through each of the features. If we want, you can log in with username and password. You can just type it and log in, and it would still work. So if you don't want to pull out your QR device, you don't have to scan it. But if you've got your QR device and you've got your mobile phone that knows how to do that work, you scan the code. That's a hyperlink that takes you to a page that does some validation. And so QR login takes you right in. But if you don't have that, you can use username and password. The register cell phone device, when we click that, we get a dialog that says that it tells you exactly how to do it. So if we're going to register a new device, we would scan the code, we would type the username and password, and we would say log in and register. And so now because we provided username and password, we were logged in by virtue of that. But if we sign out, this QR login is now going to work. So again, this is demonstrating the same thing. Scan the code, QR login, and we're in. And one more time, I'm going to demonstrate the other dialog, which is if you lose your device or you don't want it to be linked anymore, you can deregister the cell phone. So in the same way, just type manage your username and password and log in. And at that point, your device is deregistered. And we'll prove that by logging out again. And so this is the last of the demos. If we scan one more time, which scanned, and then I hit QR login, it says, nope, not authorized. So those are the three steps that we have: registering a device, being able to log in using the device, and then deregistering it. And you don't have to have the device in your hand to deregister it. So just to be clear, this is more of a convenience login, right? It's the same, it's letting you use your phone to log into the website. If you have the phone and you have an unlocked phone and you can scan it, you can log in. So it's not really two-factor authentication. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. But if somebody else had your phone or cracked your phone and got the cookie that's stored on board, they would be able to log in the same way on your site. So this is a convenience login. It's just as secure as username and password, or it can be, but it's not two-factor authentication. But we'll get to that. So how to make the magic work. If you, I have published a Google Docs folder that has everything you need to implement this. I'm actually going to stop here for a second and post the links. Sometimes I forget to do this. So I'm going to post the links on the chat, and you'll have it available to you to look at. So those are there. That includes the QR code login folder on Google Drive. We also have a link to the QR code API, which we're using in this project, and previous webinar recordings and webinar feedback. So all those are on the clipboard on the chat, and you can use those as you need. So this is where I have all my folder, all the content that we're going to implement today. And here we have a website that this is the actual one we were working on last week. It says it's the LCC 52, the one we developed last week. I'm going to log in the traditional login. And so we had our locations and our artwork and our scan page. You can watch that episode from last week. But we're going to implement a QR login page here. And so we'll work through that step by step. You'll see exactly how to do it using these files that I've provided. So let's just walk through them. The overview is the place to start. And it tells exactly what we're going to do. First of all, what this provides is the ability to log in by QR code. We're going to create two entities. We're going to create two tokens, and we're going to import a form. If we do those three things, according to the instructions I'm going to lay out here, you'll be able to do this same feature. So the first document is how to create the entities, and I'm going to open that up, and it's screenshots. At this point, we don't have a way to transport entities. That's something that's coming up in future releases, but at this point, it's a manual process. Let me zoom this so we can see it. So we'll be doing exactly this on our instance, creating a couple of entities. And so I'm just going to walk through that now. I'm going to slide this off to my other page so that I can see it and do it at the same time. So here we go. In configuration, entities, and I've named these a little bit complex. QRMFA, meaning multi-factor authentication, but I'm going to create a new entity. You'll need to name them the same as I, or change all of your, change the content within the form. So if you name them exactly the same way as this is going to work. So I want to create a namespace, and the namespace that we're going to create is going to be called A, and we're going to select that, and the entity is going to be called RMFA user table, and so that'll be users. We don't need this to display in the menu, so I'm going to turn it off, but it'll be available. We can take a look at it if we need to. If we go to the next page, it'll tell us what properties that we're going to create, and so we need to, it's going to be the user name property, which is a text, but we're also going to make it be the display name. And then we need access good. This is also going to be a text, and for fun I like to make that searchable, but that's all we need for this table. And I'm going to go on to the permissions. This is again all detailed in the file I'm looking at on my other screen and that you have. And so we're going to change some properties to say that they can add and they can edit their own entities and delete their own entities and see all entities. And that's all we need. So we'll save that. And then we're going to go on and make the second file, the second table. So this is going to be, again, in the QRMFA namespace. And this is going to be called QRMFA attempt. We'll talk about exactly what these files do when we get into the technical portion of our program. So again, I don't really care to display these in the menu, and going to make sure I spelled that right. And so we have a couple of properties that we need here as well. This is the good, which we'll add and make the display name, and then the access code, which we'll also add here, and I'd like to make it searchable. So access code, attempt good, that's all we need. And then in the permissions, same thing. We want to, they can view, they can add, they can edit and delete their own entities, and they can see all entities, all entries. And we'll save that as well. And let's see. So we have our two items created, and so I'm going to bring this back on our on board so we can see what we're doing. So I've worked my way all the way through that document, and so I'm going to close that out, go back to the overview. The next thing we need to do is import the tokens that are found here. So we'll open up this file, and we just need to import these tokens into the environment. So we go to tokens and import and paste and import, and now we have a QRMFA namespace with just 2 tokens. And so that was pretty easy. And in the steps, it says that we need to change the priv users one. Oops, this is wrong. We need to change the privileged users to the name of a user that is in a manager role. So I'm going to edit this and provide the contact. It's going to be manager. It's going to be my privileged user. So we save that, and we can see that it saves and evaluates out to manager, the name of the user that has the rights. So we're good there. And then the last one is we need to add the form. So the form is we're going to have a page, we're going to add an action form, and then we're going to import the content. So let's start by adding a page. So we go to pages, and I don't have enough rights. So I'm going to fix that. And log in. and try again. So within the site, I am going to add a page, and it's going to be called QR login. And I'm going to give all users the right to view the login page. And I'm going to give lots of people the ability to edit this page, and I'm going to save it. So now if I were to go to this QR login page, we have an empty page and I can edit it. So continuing to follow the instructions, we've built a login page. We need to add an action form, and then we're going to add some content to that action form. So let's see, a little cleanup here, getting rid of this edit content that we don't need. I am going to add an action form. Drop it here in the middle of the page. Say, I don't even need to say manage form. So I'm going to back out of that. Because what we're going to do is import content, and it will completely load the action form up. What we're going to do is paste the module content here and put import. So let's go get the module content. It's here, and I'm going to open it. And this is the content. So copy all of the content that's in this document and paste it here, import, and this is going to give us our form definition. And with that, it should be ready to go. So I am going to trust it, and I'm going to log out. We have our QR login page. We are logged out. If I sign in, just using user credentials and having nothing to do with QR, you can log in. But we'll go back to the QR login page and sign out, and then we'll test out our QR activation. So we're going to register a cell phone. It tells us exactly how to do that. So we need to use our camera to scan the QR code, and then log in and register. So this gets us registered. Now we can test it out. We'll sign out and log in with the QR login. Now, you probably have noticed that sometimes that QR code takes a second to pop up. We're using the QR ME library and API, and sometimes it takes a second to respond. It's generated dynamically. So there may be other QR implementations that you might want to consider. This one is freely available, and sometimes it lags for a second, so you can decide whether that's worth investing in. But there we go. The QR login worked. We have a device registered, and so the QR login feature is activated on this site, and then we can deregister the cell phone, and so that's how to implement it. So the next question, a couple of things. Let's go back to my slideshow here. So we did the demonstration so that we registered a device, we logged it, we deregistered the device, we implement it. You get it on Google Drive, and I've posted the link to that. It'll also be on the video when I do that. And then we walk through applying those things to a website. Not that hard to do. So let's do a high-level overview of what's going on behind the scenes with this, and then after that we can talk about what more we might want to do to this to make it true two-factor or multi-factor authentication. So if I were to, well, first I guess I'm going to need to log in so I can look at the module. So let me get logged back in. And again, there's nothing keeping you from logging in with username and password, but I'm going to take advantage of the fact that I have QR code. And so I am going to go into edit mode on the page. so that I can see this. Take a look at what's inside this module. All of the work, most of the work that's happening here is happening within this login form. Everything is built in. So I think I'm going to start with, well, let's drag this over here and take a look. So here's the words of what's happening. We have 3 different activities that need to happen to register, to actually log in with that, and then or authenticate with it and then log in. So registration. When we do the register functionality, which is this, when we click register a cell phone, what's going on is that the QR code passes an access code to your device. The access code is going to get stored on your device as a cookie. And so this is a one-time thing, a cookie that has a very long duration. And but the cookie is all that's on there. It doesn't include username or password. It's just an access code. And when you complete the login dialog, when you provide the username and password, that same access code and the username is added to that to the first table that we added, QR MFA user. So the username and the access code are listed there. And so that's the thing that provides the record that you want those 2 things linked, the device and the username. So we have a registration link. You scan that, and it comes back to this exact same page, this exact same form, but on the screen you don't see any of this. All these are hidden logically, and you'll see it just says something essentially log in using your credentials on and click the login register button on your first device. So that's the registration page, and the main magic of what's going on there is that this access code, this very random GUID, is stored on your device as a cookie. So if anybody has access to your, well, we'll talk about the security implications, but in a minute. But that's where that's the magic of how it works. It's information stored as a cookie. So then we go into the authentication mode. When you go to this site and you browse to it, by default it comes up letting you do a QR login. You need to either scan the QR code and press QR login, or you can log in with your credentials. Well, when you scan that code, what's in the code is an attempt. So the QR code passes a login attempt code, and when the action that takes place at that point is that an attempt record is written that includes the attempt code and the access code. So the scan on your mobile device ends up writing an attempt code record, an attempt record. And it doesn't complete a login, it just writes an attempt code. So this screen has generated an attempt code. Your mobile device is made aware of the attempt code and put together with the cookie that's stored on it creates an attempt record that you can take advantage of. So that when you press the QR login button, that attempt record is read in the context of this screen. And if it finds an attempt record, it looks for the user record. It's able to take the access code that's now part of that attempt record and look up the user. And if it's valid, it completes the login. That's the high level of what's going on. And we can look at a few of these things inside the form. The main actions that will be of interest to you are all happening here on init. When you come into this form, things are happening. So there's 3 different modes and it's passed by the login mode. So it's either there's no login mode when you just browse to the page in the first place. We're going to show the login dialog and the options, and we're going to prepare the QR that's necessary. So within this, we are building the QR code for authenticating. And so what we're passing is login mode authenticate and passing the attempt information. And just from documentation purposes, I included a variable that explains how to do URL encoding in case you weren't aware of it. But that's not doing anything. That's just explaining for if you need help on how to do that. But then we're using that one of the tokens that we created, the QR code token, to pass that message, and that's going to be handling the logon. In the same way, we build one for registering, and so this one is being sent to the attempt QR code static text variable, so that the QR code gets put on the attempt QR code. I'm going to stop and look in case there's any questions. I know I'm bebopping around here quite a bit. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. In the same way, we build a QR code for the register QR code. And in that one, we are passing the access code. So, and each of the, both of those things, the attempt code, the access code, are generated dynamically every time the page loads. So unless you happen to capture the access code at the time that, the access code gets registered the first time, and then that becomes permanent, even though it's generating other access codes every time you access the form. Those aren't recorded. Those aren't unless you use the register dialog. So they're not a security implication. Okay, so the first execute actions sets up the screen and generates all the QR codes. When you do a register action, the only thing that it's doing is setting a cookie on the remote device, the QRMFA access code. It expires way out into the future, and it's taking the access code that comes from the query string. So this is the only action. It's creating a cookie, and that cookie gets registered. If you, just because there's a cookie there though, if you deregister the device from anywhere, that cookie, even though it continues to exist, is no longer relevant and can't be used for anything. And then we display a message to say complete the login and register on your other device. So that's the register mode. And then when we do the authentication, we need to be able to write a record. So this is where we take advantage of that privileged user. We load ourselves to a higher level so that we can write out a record. And then we create an attempt record that includes the current attempt ID. They've browsed to the page, they have an attempt ID, and so we use that attempt ID, and we provide the code from our cookie. If we've got a good access code, it's going to let us through. And so those are the major modes. Just briefly, up at the top, you're going to see that a lot of things are shown or hidden based on these checkboxes as to whether or not you're registering a cell phone or deregistering. So there's a little bit of logic there as to what gets shown based on what you've done the checkbox. But the major logic that we care about is the QR login. And so that's this button. When they've scanned the code and hit the QR login button, this is the thing that makes the matchup work. So there's some actions. The first one is we're going to determine whether or not this is a good QR login. The second, if we do have a valid login, we're going to clean up and let the user in, and otherwise we're going to fail. So let's dig into that. We remove all attempts that are older than 30 seconds. So we're going to keep ourselves cleaned up. Anybody that attempts to do a QR login, whether valid or invalid, those are not going to last but 30 seconds. So you have to scan it and then immediately click the button in order to get in. We look up the attempt, which was created by virtue of scanning that the login QR code, and we are parsing that out and looking to see if the user, we're looking up based on where the access GUID is equal to the access code they've provided. And if it is, whatever the answer is, it gets stored as the login as username. So this will end up either being blank if they have no if the attempt and the user doesn't lead anywhere, it's going to be blank. Or if it has a username, then it's a good login. And if we have a valid user login, then we create a link. We're using that privileged user again to delete out this attempt record. And then finally, we redirect to the login link so that the user is logged in. So, I mean, we could dig in farther, but that's really the high level of it, and the how and the why. In case you're trying to follow along, again, I know I went through that pretty fast, but and it'll be on the recording that'll be useful. So we have a register mode, an authenticate mode, and a QR login, and that's how it works. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, well, what kind of security do we get out of this? And so this is similar to what we've talked about in previous Remember Me scenarios in previous low-code cafes, in that we've said that it's okay to remember for a period of time that this QR code can be used to log in. It's not high security. A lost or stolen device could still be used to log into the website, and you can mitigate that by, if you do have a lost or stolen device, you can deregister it, and you don't need to have the device to deregister it. So possible future enhancements that would be really quite easy to do and turn it into two-factor authentication would be to collect a PIN in the middle of all that dialogue. If when they registered the device in the first place, if they typed in a PIN, which could be a short passcode or a long passcode, but if they had, if we collected a PIN and stored that as part of the QR MFA users table, then that would say that the user would need to be able to have a PIN in order to log in. So now they need to be able to go to the website, they need to have the device in hand, they need to have something, and they need to know something, the PIN. So now it becomes two-factor authentication. So we could make that pretty secure without going too much deeper. And then it occurs to me that we could do, if you really required ultra security, that the fun might be, now we go back into the things that Reza talked about when we did the first Remember Me's, where we took advantage of the device fingerprint. And so this registration phase could record device fingerprint. You would need a username, a password, a QR scan. So the login would require, you'd have a login screen that it'd have to be the right device, the right username, the right password. You'd have to scan a QR code. You'd have to have a registered device, and you'd have to have the PIN. Lots of now we're into multi-factor security. It's got to be on the right computer, got to have the right cell phone, you got to know usernames, passwords, and PINs, you could make it quite secure that way. So that would be a potential enhancement. Okay, so let's see, I believe that's all I've prepared for today. If there are questions, I'd be happy to take them on. And again, that link can be used to access and load that as a great starting spot for adding QR login to your site. Okay. So if there's no questions, I'm gonna tap Bogdan, Reza. Anybody want to jump in and tell me whether that was interesting or boring for the last half hour?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I love this new login techniques. I especially love this trend where you don't need to remember the password. So QR could be a good way, you know, or instead of sending a link via email, how somebody are doing it. Using QR to replace password could also be a good thing. Difficult to remember password, and the temptation is to use some easily to remember typable password, which of course is not secure at all.
Yeah, we've all had to try and figure out how to deal with passwords. I know I have so many passwords, I have to have a password manager now, but that would certainly be an alternative. So, I'd like to see it perhaps implemented with another direction would be when we talk about single sign-on, so to be able to go from system to system when you have a multi-system setup and device is authorized and lets you in, and then when you're no longer an employee, the device gets canceled and you're out of all the systems all at once.
Yeah, I liked a very creative use case here, Dale. And just kind of, I'm seeing the QR stuff everywhere now. Maybe it's the Meinhof Bender effect or something they call it. But once you kind of get tuned into a thing, you see it a lot. And just in the last week, I was going to take my kid for a swim at a water park, and all of the waivers and ticket purchase and everything was just a big QR code in front of the place. Like the people working the ticket counter were just like, go there and scan the QR code. Went to a restaurant afterwards, and it wasn't just like, here you can see our menu. It was hit the QR code, place your order. It knows what table you're sitting at, everything. You can add to your order, everything. So seeing, you know, there's that very much like interacting with the real world. But I think, like you're saying and what you showed here, is that it's not just for generating URLs and making it easy to find a site. I think it was very cool to use it as a authentication and kind of validation mechanism of who are you without them having to really do anything.
Yep. So looking at the chat, I see that Jen has said that she'd love to hear more about single sign-on and across domain names in the same instance of Portal. So Jen, just letting you know, we'll add that to our stack of ideas for low-code Café and see where we can go with that. I know that we've touched on that before with Radu, and it is a problem that we face as well. So I think it could well be a topic for another time. Great. So I think it's a record. We've give 10 minutes back. You want to do that, Bogdan?
Sure. We'll take them as credit for next sessions. So yeah, thanks everyone for being here again with us. Thanks Dale for the interesting techniques that you showed us today. And Reza, we are looking forward to seeing the new release. And
Oh my.
Everyone else will be seeing each other again next week with new interesting topics to discuss.